Hello and welcome to Unknown Caller, Paranormal Switchboard. We are your switchboard operators, Barry.
And I'm Dave.
We are going to launch this first episode now, and we wanted to step in here before we get going and let everyone know what the podcast is about and what to expect. So, this podcast is an opportunity for viewers to call in and speak to a much larger audience than they would otherwise have access to, and to share their personal paranormal experiences, whether that be dealing with cryptids, UFOs, ghosts, anything that they've experienced that's outside of the normal and would like to share it with the world. This is their place to do so. The first episode, well, we'll say the first few episodes are going to be a little janky as we figure out the formatting and hammer out exactly how we're going to film this. So bear with us. Just like my regular YouTube channel, things will improve drastically at rapid succession. So just hang in there. I think around 4 or 5 episodes in, we'll have this thing figured out.
Professional.
Yep, have it looking professional. So all that being said, we'll step into the first story. Let's go.
So I go by Hutch. Also, I got a couple of social medias. I go by RC Metal Gear. Metal Gear RC, sorry. Metal Gear RC. I do RC stuff, scale stuff,
Awesome.
if anybody's interested. But I have a couple of encounters. This was whenever I was stationed at Kadena Air Force Base in Okinawa, Japan. So I wasn't very into the spirit ghosts and stuff like that. I was very, very mildly interested, but not like, yeah, it's real or anything. But there was this one building, and I might have to share it on the Discord where the location is.
Okay.
But there's this old building, and the history behind it is it kind of dates back to around World War II era. And it's a shop that we work out of, and that was aerospace ground equipment technician. So it's kind of like a glorified mechanic. I worked on just about everything for aircrafts and the equipment for the aircraft. And so I was given access to the building because of the rank I was at, and I was working nights. So one night, a buddy of mine calls me up and he says, "Man, I forgot my keys to my dorm and in my coveralls and my locker that's in that building." And this is like late. It was past midnight. And I think it was the weekend too. So he was out with friends and stuff. And then once he realized, he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, you see, I got the keys to the building." I was like, "Yeah, I do. I'll meet you over there." So we're on a flight line, and I drive my truck out there that used tow equipment around on the flight line. I drive out to the building, and the building is kind of away from everything. So there's a little distance to walk to it. It's not like you can just hide anywhere around there. So it's just kind of like precursor to what was about to happen. So I get there, it's dark, not very many lights on. I unlock the building, go inside, and as I said, it's a place to work on equipment. So there's a couple pieces of equipment, couple toolboxes. There's a base radio inside there, and there's like 3 doors to different offices. So I go in there, and there's only one light on in the building. And I'm not worried about it or anything. So I just hop up on the toolbox, sitting there just waiting for him, listening to my radio, waiting for any calls to come through. So I want to say it was like 15, 20 minutes into it. I hear, well, the base radio, kind of like a static comes through, go, and I'm like, that base radio's off. So I hop off the toolbox, walk up to it. I turn it on, turn it off. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know it's off now. So I'm like, just like, whatever, something happened. Jump up on the toolbox, wait again. I want to say another 5, maybe 10 minutes or so pass by. And I hear hear like a knock at the door. It's like and it's a metal door. So it's like, and I'm thinking, oh man, he's here. He's knocking at the door, and I'm like, okay, go, and like the door's unlocked. So I was like wondering why he didn't open up the door. So I hop off the toolbox, run up to the door, hit the door open, and this is, I mean, shortly after I hear the knock. So I open up the door. There's no one there. So I walk out the building, look around, and I'm like, there's nowhere to run to and hide. So I'm like, I'm thinking, maybe he's playing with me. So I walk around the building. No, I don't see nothing. There's nowhere he can run and hide. If anything, I would have caught him running. I even checked around my truck. No one there. So I was like, go back inside, sit up on the toolbox, and here another 5 minutes or so go by. And in the corner of the building, next to one of the doors, I hear just a clear, like somebody clearing their throat 3 times. And that's when the hair on the back of my neck stands up, and I go like, oh, wait, I know where I'm at. And I just kind of like hopped off the toolbox because I knew all the doors were locked. There's nobody in the building. It's like I said, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I just like get out of the building, just calmly walked out, went sit on my truck, and surely I want to say another 5-10 minutes came by. He comes, shows up, and he's like, dude, what? I need to get in. I told him about it, and he's like, oh, I got to check this. I got to check, and nothing happened with us. So that was the first incident that I had with that building. I had 2 more incidents with that building, and they get a little interesting each time. So I want to say it was maybe a month later. It was night shift again. Hardly anybody on the flight line. The building's locked up, and I'm working on a piece of equipment, and I need the paperwork for it. So I was like, okay, I know where it's at. It's in that building. Let me go get it. Go in there and by myself again. It's probably like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you gotta remember this is a tropical island, and nights it's still like 80, feels like 90 degrees. It's hot. It's humid. This building does not have no AC except for one of the offices where the computers are at. So I'm in the Bay Area with all the equipment that we work on. So they got big garage doors. There's no fans, nothing on, no AC, anything. And I go up, get inside the building, and I walk up to the wall where all the paperwork is in the little slots. So I'm looking through the slots, looking for the paperwork, and I get this eerie feeling that someone is looking over my shoulder. And I'm like, I look back, there's nothing there. So because of the previous incident, I'm starting to think, okay, maybe it's something. Maybe it is a ghost. So I was like, okay, I take a step back, and it feels like ice cold. Like I just stepped into in a building with air conditioner on, and I'm like, man, this is cold. So I take a step to the left, and it's hot again. It's hot, humid, and I'm like, I grabbed the paperwork, and I'm like, let me just see. And I started walking around the building, and I started to count the cool spots. When I got around 8, I was like, okay, I'm out of here. I leave. So like I counted like 8 cool spots, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm leaving this building, locked up, got out. I want to say it was probably another 3 months later, 3 or 4 months later, I'm back on day shift. I'm not on night shift anymore, and I get sent to that same building again, and it's only 3 of us working out of that building that day, and it's morning time. I want to say it was roughly 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and me and my buddy, we were outside of the building working on a piece of equipment. I'm working on one, he's working on another one, and then the guy that was in the building, he had to leave to go to the other shop. So he jumped in the truck, went to the other shop to go get something. So while I'm working on my piece of equipment, it's like, oh, I need a certain piece of equipment. So I was about to get up and go back to the shop to grab it. So I look up and I see somebody, and there's this water fountain, and it's right next to the garage door that slides open. And the garage door was open, so I had a clear view of the water fountain. And there's somebody there drinking water, and I think it's my buddy because it almost looks like him, in uniform, everything. And I see him, and I'm like, oh, maybe he's just getting to drink water, and he's going to be walking back to his piece of equipment. So I holler at him, hey, can you grab a certain piece of equipment? And he kind of like looked up at me, and then my buddy was actually at his piece of equipment, and his head popped up because he heard me holler his name. He popped up, so I turned and look at him, and I'm like, wait, who's at the water fountain? And as soon as we both turn and look, it disappeared. And I'm like, what? And then I told him the stories of the 2 incidents I had before, and those are the only 3 incidents I've ever had with that place, and nothing ever happened after that. So, and then shortly, I want to say about another year later, I was leaving the island. So I didn't have any other experiences with it.
Well, man, that's awesome. The just the idea of having these occurrences happen in the same location over time and time again, just to give you some sort of validation on what you saw the previous instance, has got to be pretty insane.
There is one other incident. So my wife's Japanese, and when I met her when I was stationed in Okinawa, and there was one time I stayed at her house that night, and we were laying there, and I'm about to fall asleep, and I hear this pop sound. It's like electrical popping sound, and I know there was a lamp next to me, and I jump up, and I'm like, because I hear a popping sound, and working with a piece of equipment, I've heard electrical pops before, and I'm thinking, I turn on the light, I'm looking for smoke, looking for burnt wires. There's nothing there. And she's just like, lay down, go back to sleep. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, okay, I lay back down. It happens again. And I go to do the same thing again. She just like grabs me, and she's like, no, don't move, lay down, go back to sleep. And as soon as I realized it, because every time it happened, it was right when I was slipping into sleep. Right, so you go from conscious to unconscious, that's when it happens.
Right.
And she grabs me, and she's like, shh, don't say anything, just go back to sleep. And so I was like, then it clicked, like, oh, it's just a ghost messing with us, because she heard it too. Because I asked her the next day about it. She's like, she heard it too. She's like, the thing is, a lot of Okinawans learn, like, when you have any encounter with a ghost, ignore them and they'll leave you alone.
Yeah, it sounded like she was pretty familiar with it to instantly recognize what you're reacting to.
Because a friend of hers, she and her friend had went out that night, and they came back to her house, and so her friend was sleeping in her bed, and same thing happened to her, was where she heard a popping sound, but she said it was in a different location of the house, and she and her friend got so scared that she actually left that night because of the popping sound. Yeah.
Man, that's wild. Yeah. That's pretty crazy, man. I appreciate you so much sharing these stories with us, and you're actually our very first caller to ever call in. So this couldn't have went any better, and I'm very, very, very grateful for that.
I have a question. You still there, buddy?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
So the building you were referring to, you said this was like an area that you could only access if you were like a higher ranking person, or it's got restrictions to who can come and come and go.
Oh yeah. It's restricted because it's on the flight line.
Right. So
it's actually on the military Air Force base.
Yeah. So you had 3 encounters at that specific building?
Three encounters at that specific building.
Do you know of any like background information about that building as to why there would be like high paranormal activity there? Maybe someone got an accident or anything like that. Do you have any information like that?
No specific accidents to that location that I know of or been told of. Now, I've heard of from other people I worked with at that base, people that had encounters themselves. So they had the encounter and they told me about the encounter. And the encounters that they had, they knew why it happened because they were previously at that base and something tragically happened to someone. And then years later, when they came back, they had an encounter, which they remembered what the guy looked like from the reports, like, hey, such and such had a tragical accident, and they would show a picture of them in uniform and stuff like that before they died. And then later on had an incident where they were like, there's your buddies over there switching it off, like turning off a piece of equipment. And they're like, no, we're just by ourselves. And then when the guy like described the person, they were like, oh wait, this is the person that died like 5 years ago at that location.
That's interesting. That's pretty wild.
It seems like this place is a hotbed for paranormal activity.
Yeah.
Well, especially Okinawa. So Okinawa itself, if you look into World War II, the history of it, the Japanese government was telling the locals that the Americans are coming. They're going to, I don't know if you need to censor this out, but they're going to and pillage everybody. They're going to kill the men, they're going to kill all the women, and they're going to enslave the kids.
Right.
That's what they were telling them. So a lot of people were committing. They were, especially they say a lot of cliff points, usually near the ocean, are hot spots for spirits because a lot of people were just lying up, jumping headfirst off of cliffs to commit suicide, so they wouldn't be or enslaved or something like that.
All over fear
because
mongering.
they were afraid. Yes, just straight up fear mongering.
That's insane.
And the ones that survive, they realize like, oh, the Americans came, they're feeding us, they're giving us, food, clothing, and safety.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, Mr. Hutch, if you ever find any information about like a big tragedy or specific incident like that, or that from anywhere from where you were stationed at, and want to reach back out to us on the Discord so we can kind of add that in here, that would be fantastic. But we appreciate your call, brother. This has been awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up on Google Maps and I'm gonna get like the location of that building. I think it's still standing. So I'll try to get you the location and a couple images of the building.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Awesome. And I'll put it on Discord for y'all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. And thank you for calling in.
No problem.
So my name is Justin, Central Ohio, 35 years old. And my story it's really my dad's story, but it just struck me because he's a hardcore non-believer in anything paranormal, UFOs, not even in his vocabulary. And it struck me when he hit me with this. So my mom and dad went through a divorce before I went to prison, and so they moved out of the house that we grew up in. My mom stayed there for a minute. My dad moved in with my sister. My brother and sister my dad and my brother moved in with my sister and her husband. And this house has been in her husband's family for, I don't know, a couple of generations, I guess. I think it was his dad's and his grandpa's or something. So, old house. It's always super weird. The dog is always like barking at the basement door and stuff like that. So So I kind of already knew something was up. My mom and my sister, they've always believed and all that. Not my dad, not my brother. I've never had any experiences myself. So my dad is in a room down the hall from my brother upstairs. And my dad gets home from work around the time my brother's getting up for school. My brother drives himself to school. He's a senior at the time.
Okay.
And my dad said he come home from work. He was a little late, later than normal. And he thought my brother had not left yet. And so he went so you leave my dad's bedroom, right? And you look down the hallway and you can see my brother's door from the other end of the hallway. And there is a closet in my brother's room, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a walk-in closet. It's just you open a door and you can reach in. That's it. And my dad said he looking down the hallway. It's early morning, so it's not very much light or whatever. You can see the window on the far side of the bedroom from down the hall. He said he's seen a shadow walk in between him and the window, and it walked into the closet. That's not a walk-in closet. And he says a shadow about my brother's height is just a fully blocked out the window on its way through. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just walked into the closet. He's like, why in the hell is Aaron walking into the closet? He goes in there, flips the light on. He's already gone. My brother's already left for school.
Mm.
My dad's like, I guess he just stunned, and he tells us all about it. He's like, I mean, I guess I believe now. You know what I mean? I got to, so.
Yeah, if you see it with your own eyes, you kind of have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, and it's not my story, so I had no, I can't give the emotion of what happened, you know what I mean, because I wasn't there, but he's just, and he don't really talk about it a lot. He don't, you know what I mean, it just happened, and that was it. And
well, I appreciate you.
I never had any, yeah, for sure.
You can go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, that's right. It was pretty much over. I was just saying he never mentioned any other experiences after that. You know what I mean?
Right.
He don't live in that house no more. My sister still does, and she talks about stuff sometimes with the dog seeing stuff that they don't see and stuff like that. But
right.
Nothing really beyond that. So
I got a question, Mr. Justin. Do you know of anything,
Yeah.
or your family that lived in that house know of anything that would cause paranormal activity to be around that area, in that house specifically? Maybe like past tenants or...
Not specifically. I just know that it was in her husband's family for a while, and I think that's where his grandpa raised his dad, basically.
Oh, so like a
So
generational...
I don't think he died in the house or anything like that. That's pretty much all I know about.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Patrick Neal. I live in Ohio, the Columbus area. I kind of like I said before, from a really young age, my family always joked that I was either cursed or a future saint, because crazy stuff would just always happen around me. For example, when I was 4, my grandmother passed away. She lived in our basement. I was really close with her. I obviously don't have too many super deep memories just due to the young age. But about a week after she passed, and I remember this like it was yesterday, even though I was so young, we went sledding. And I don't know if y'all remember those little, what do they call it, like the saucer sleds, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's just a circle, and those things would be, those things would fly all over the place, and you really don't got no control.
Right.
And I was headed apparently directly at a tree, just flying down this massive hill. They've since closed. And everyone was just screaming, oh my God, oh my God. A whole bunch of people were running over, and at the very, very last second just swerved around it, and flew all the way into the water, which thankfully, obviously, I'm here. But they still did end up taking me to the hospital just from hypothermia and all that stuff. And another one is I am in recovery. I got about 5 years coming up now. And the very last time that I ever used, I was just like at my wit's end, right? Ready to just end it all. So I was intentionally overdosing. And essentially, it wasn't my grandma or anything like that, but I was laying there in bed. I had written out all my notes and everything, said my goodbyes on paper to all my loved ones, and out of the blue, I thought that this is actually happening too, and it could have just been a 100% hallucination. But this gorgeous blonde-haired woman, just comes into my apartment, lays down on my bed with me, starts having a conversation with me, and again, I 100% thought that, well, one of my neighbors or friends or whatever sent somebody over. I thought it was like a therapist or something. And she was going through, hey, what are your reasons? You know what I mean? Why do you feel this way? What can I do for you? We get into this real deep conversation. And within about 20 minutes, my next door neighbor apparently had seen my dog scratching at the sliding glass door. And she thought, God, what's wrong with Charlie? Something must be going on. She's banging notice whatsoever. But then she called our other neighbor, who's a really good friend of mine, and said, hey, I think something's going on with Patrick. And within about a half an hour after that, I had the EMS, the police, breaking down my door, coming to take me in. And my BAC at the time they said was about 0.37. And I combined that with Xanax and DXM.
Wow.
So they were like, hey, if you didn't end up, in the hospital here, you were about an hour or two away from being, unable to be brought back or anything like that. Which that was obviously quite the experience. And ever since, that really steered me on a course of staying sober, staying focused on my faith. I don't know if it was an angel, a complete hallucination of my mind or what, but that was an extremely unique and, for lack of a better term, I say angelic experience, because it saved my life, obviously.
Wow. That's absolutely amazing. Congratulations on your sobriety, man. I'm glad we're still
Thank
breathing
you,
the
sir.
same air. I'm glad you're still here with us. That's
Absolutely.
quite a situation that you lived through.
Yeah, absolutely. And couldn't be more thankful either, because then I wouldn't be able to watch your videos and speak to you today.
Well, I appreciate the compliment. I appreciate it. I'm trying to get better at taking those instead of just brushing them off.
Sure, yeah, we love you, Barry. You know that.
Oh, I can feel it. I know y'all do. I appreciate it so much.
My name's Mike Brown.
Mike Brown. All right. And
Yes, sir.
and what state do you live in, Mike?
I live in Maryland.
Maryland. All right. Mike from Maryland.
Be a little more specific.
Oh, you could be as specific. I mean, don't give anybody your home address. This is going to be on the internet, but
Oh, no.
be as specific as you want or don't want to be.
Well, I'll give it a better way so people can understand, because Maryland's broken into the eastern and western shore. I live on the eastern shore, so there's
Okay.
still a pretty good sized demographic that's trying to find me, and I don't think they want to find me.
Right. All right. Well, I guess jump right into your story, Mike, and let us know what your experiences have been.
All right. Well, weirdly enough, most of my stuff would probably be like a haunting type thing. That and just seeing weird stuff in the sky. But one thing that's always stayed prevalent with me, especially as being a child, and everyone says, yeah, you can see stuff in the dark. This is one of my youngest memories, and I remember climbing out of my crib, but mind you, I was probably a toddler back then. So I was still probably about almost 2 years old. By then, I was already walking. Anyway, I went across from my brother slept, and my sister slept in the other room across the hallway. And I remember as I was coming up to the eave of the stairs, and you could look down the stairs, there was a man coming upstairs. Well, at first I didn't think nothing of it, because I just thought it was my dad. Well, as it got close, I noticed this thing was a lot taller than my dad, so I got scared, and I scurried over into my sister's room, and they were sleeping on the floor. And I remember climbing over my older sister, and her, getting pissed about it or whatever. Whatever the thing was, when I got to the top of the stairs, it just kept walking, and you couldn't hear it anymore or nothing. And just curiosity, I went back out in the hallway, didn't see nothing else. And mind you, this is way back in the day. We grew up poor, so it's not like we left lights on at night, because that burned electricity, and electricity costs money. I heard my dad say that a million times.
Right.
But I have no explanation for that besides possibly shadow people or some kind of weird entity. I know my mom told us a story. She was in the house by herself one day cleaning,
And out of nowhere, every single cabinet and drawer in the kitchen came flying open and stuff just flew out. Instead, I just ran out of the house and started praying. And a lot of people would use that stuff and they're like, oh, well, that's fake. Because you see one or two drawers flow open. She said every single thing flew open at the exact same time.
I am.
The other,
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off or nothing. I just want to step in and say I'm quite often ridiculed for claiming that every one of those videos of a kitchen drawer or refrigerator door opening and closing by itself is fake, and 99% of them are fake because they're just using wires.
oh, yeah.
But it's different whenever
Oh,
you're
yeah. And it's only one thing.
right. It's different if you're in the kitchen and you experience and then go tell everybody this thing happened to me versus somebody trying to capture something on video and then pass it off as being legitimate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
The big difference there.
And I just, man, that place is weird. Every single person that lived there after us talked about how they could hear people talking. I know when I was little, we had a piano there, and just randomly at night, you would hear it playing. And I don't mean like mice running across it, ding, dong, 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 or something like that. No, like somebody was playing an effing song on that thing. When we moved out, we took the piano with us. Imagine this. It doesn't play at the new house. So whatever it was is still there. The lady that moved in after us actually went and bought a pool table, cue sticks and everything. And she said at night it would smell like there was smoke in there, and you could hear people laughing, talking, and the pool table playing. But if you went in the room, sticks were on the table, all the balls were in a triangle. Now, to give some background to this house that we live in, it's old as crap, and it used to be like the hotel slash post office. I think at one point in time it was a brothel, because they used to build ships in Riverton. So way back in the day when slave trade and all that stuff was prevalent, like it was a prominent region. So they seen all kinds of stuff go through there. And a lot of the old guys told us around there, it could have just been, full of crap. But apparently they used to convict people and hang them right in that front yard too. And I was like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot going on there. You got a hotel, which implies people could have died there because they just couldn't have been passing through. You got the possibility.
Right, and they're working right on the steamships on the river.
Yeah, and the
Yeah, so you got to think like that.
Brothels are just covered up in traumatic instances or situations.
Oh,
and stuff.
God,
So
yeah.
it sounds like you get a recipe for disaster surrounding that house.
Now, yeah, and to mention it's in the middle of pretty much nowhere.
Yeah. Wow, man. Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I'm going to share one that I was older. I was probably about 15 when this happened, 15, 16. I was outside with my dog. I like walking him at night. I did that for the longest time. When I got older, I ended up having a night shift job, and it was great. But anyway, I was outside walking my dog, and the hair down the back of his neck started standing up, and you could feel him growl, like a low rumble growl. And mind you, this dog is American Bull Terrier and crap, what the heck was the other thing in him? It was both bully breeds, but he was a big boy. Like, there wasn't much that scared him. He literally broke any lead I ever put him on. He'd snap it. Anyway, so we were outside walking down the road, and I could tell that he was acting anxious and weird. And then I got out of nowhere, he just stopped. I'm like, come on, man, move. And I could hear out of the corner on my left side, because I'm partially deaf in my right ear, I could hear like chains beating down the ground, and it sounded like something was running down the road. And I looked over, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And I could just see like two red dots bouncing up and down the road. Mind you, again, it's dark out. The moon wasn't even out that night. Only thing I could think, hellhound would be the most describable thing, because whenever this thing got up to us, like my dog literally pissed on itself, jumped out of his skin. I would let go of my dog and ran off like a coward. I ain't gonna lie.
Man, that's
it disappeared. And I don't know what it was, but it looked like a gigantic fucking dog with red eyes. It had a chain around its neck that it was dragging, but when it got up to us, it was gone. But you could even smell it, right?
Yeah.
And that was the weird part to me, is like, okay, it disappeared, but it had that dingy, shitty sulfur smell. Excuse my language, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not like wet dog smell, or like if you ever popped a fox or some kind of wild animal, you smell its coat. No, this thing smelled like sulfur, like just nastiness. I don't know how it's better to describe it, but it had like that shitty burnt smell.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's
And
wild,
just
man.
even thinking about it, man, it puts hairs up on back because it's like, what the hell? What is this stuff? You know, where does it come from? Am I seeing this stuff? Like, am I making it up in my head or like, you know?
Well, it's crazy
A
to
lot of
see
people, I don't.
something and then actually smell it after you've been
Yeah.
after you've determined that it's not physically there.
Yeah.
But there's still a
Yeah.
smell lingering. That's crazy.
Right. Because, okay, so you got the two visuals, hearing something and seeing it. You can dismiss that, you know, wind or leaves blowing across the road at the same time because it was dark out. I really couldn't see all that good.
Right.
And I can see pretty dang good in the dark. But mind that either way for anybody's skepticism, to see it, you could hear it, but the smell part. And I've heard people talk about that, just like the lady telling us that she could smell smoke in there when they were playing pool. And it's creepy that certain things can leave an odor, and you know that that's probably entity, whatever you want to call it. It's probably pretty powerful if it's able to leave 3 centuries out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, man, thank you so
I
much
mean, I don't.
for sharing all that. That's kind of crazy to we've heard of several stories today from different callers and stuff. Yours definitely stands out to me as unique. So I greatly appreciate you calling in and letting us know about it.
Hey, man, I appreciate what y'all doing. I feel like y'all sharing awareness to the obvious that this world is not what it should be. And,
That's
you know,
that's
why
what we're
not
trying
share it
to
to
do.
people? Because I'm sure someone out there feels like it, you know?
Oh yeah, and this is I think this is some of the most intriguing stuff out there. You know, even if there are certain stories that are going to be easily explained away, or you know, someone maybe a situation where someone saw something and maybe they were under the influence or something like that, and it's kind of obvious, but there's still a lot to be gained from some of these experiences. So I feel like they're all worth listening to.
So I want to tell you something else, too. And I'm sure people see lights in the sky, but we all can pretty much, if you pay attention to anything in the sky, you can tell what's a plane and what's not. And I used to think for the longest time I just saw in the sky, and I was crazy. And here lately, I've had friends over, and I'm like, hey, look up. And they look up, and they're like, what is that? Like, call me crazy or not, but I know I've seen 2 moons before in the sky, and that was just really wild and crazy. And how do you explain that? Because nobody's going to believe you.
Right. Well, we're getting a lot of video footage now of 2 moons in the sky. I've been seeing it all over the place. So
Yeah.
The glitch theory.
yeah, you've got something there to back up your story now. If somebody says you're making it up, tell them to get on TikTok and look it up for themselves. They can find videos all day long of it.
Well,
Oh yeah.
even better to people that want to be blind, they still won't believe evidence, even if they see it right in front of them. No, you need to give me scientific background. Like, what the hell you mean? It's right there in physical form.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us for our first episode. We appreciate all the callers who've called in so far, and we're looking forward to the next ones. We have a Discord where we get most of our contacts. If you'd like to be one of these people to call in, make sure you join the Discord.
Link will be in the description of the video.
Yes. Click the link down there. Well, this is how we normally get into contact with people for this type of stuff. So join the conversation, have a good time. You know, we're in there pretty frequently. So,
Yeah, daily.
all right. Well, we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.